Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to eat, how to lose fat, how to gain muscle from your eating, and we're just going to run over the first basics that you need to get right and you need to know. So if you're new to my YouTube channel, I talk about everything about rugby training, how to get strong, fit and fast, and obviously how to improve yourself. We have our Rugby Development Coach app you can download for free, which we have all of our exercises, we have training programs, we have it all. So if you're new to the channel also, please like and subscribe. Subscribe, and that really helps us out. Share it with your friends. I know you're going to get a lot out of this. So if you have a kid that plays rugby, if you're a rugby player, then a lot of people have troubles losing that little bit of extra fat these days while gaining muscle. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about how you can eat to gain muscle, whether you're skinny and you need to put on as much muscle as possible, or whether you need to lose some fat, right? Or if you need to do it both at the same time. So let's get into this. So the most important thing you need to start off with is work out how much you are currently eating. So do not change a single thing, all right? Just do this. Okay, so what you can actually do is download MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal. So in our next part of the app, we're actually going to be putting MyFitnessPal straight into the app, so then you can actually get an idea of how much you are actually eating. Okay, sometimes it's good to be really specific, but I don't expect you to go and weigh all of your food. Just get a rough idea. If you need to weigh your food, go and weigh your food, all right? It's really not that hard. It's really self-explanatory. Once you open up MyFitnessPal, they have all their guides on how to do it exactly. But it's the first thing you need to do, and it's a really good awareness tool. So whether you got kids and you need to do it for your kids, it's a really good idea to just be like, how much are they actually getting in? Okay, because a lot of people think they're usually eating a lot less than they actually are, and a lot of calories will be hidden inside sauces and drinks, especially. Drinks are very calorie dense, all right? And it's the best thing to actually get an idea of how much you're actually eating before you go and even change anything, because then we don't know what we need to change. Okay, well, you probably have a rough idea what you need to change. Most people do. When I talk to them, I'm like, oh, I'm just eating too much of these biscuits and I'm late night snacking, or I'm having too many beers on the weekend. That's a lot of rugby players, right? So that's your first step. Get that done. Record 2 weeks roughly of eating, even at least a week. If you can get a week, you can be like, oh wow, look how much I'm actually eating. I'm either under eating or I'm overeating, and then you can go from there. Then we can start working out, okay, what do we need to do next? What should we change that will make the biggest difference? Okay, and the biggest thing I go to straight away, losing fat and getting muscle, is let's look at how much protein you're having. Now, on the upper end of how much protein you should be having, it's 2.2 grams. So 2.2, see how my handwriting is, grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Okay, that's on the upper end, and like you can go above that, no problem. Like your body will just use it. Your body will get rid of it if you have too much. It's not an issue, and there is no good data backing up that would be an issue going over that. Okay, people used to worry about their kidneys and things like that, but as long as you're looking after your hydration and stuff, not a issue. So the first thing we look at is protein, and where I like to start changing people's protein, my very first step from our RDC field guide. So just a disclaimer too, I should have said this at the start, but I am not a nutritionist. I've done nutrition courses. I've been around it my whole life, the last, however long I've been a trainer now, I've been a trainer for an S&C for how long now? 13 years roughly, but I've always been around it. My brother was a PT before that, so always been around my nutrition, and so that's why I just make up guides. Like, I want to teach you about it rather than me giving you out meal plans, right? I can show you what meals to go for, but I don't actually do meal plans. And I think people that need meal plans are generally, they get babied too much. So I want to teach you how to do it for yourself, and you go off and actually do it, because I find when people do that, man, they have the control themselves. They don't have to come back to me. So I used to do meal plans back in the gym, and people would come to me and they would be like, oh, I didn't stick to my thing, my macros this weekend, while I was at the pub, and I'd be like, oh, okay, why are you telling me? Like, this is on you. And I realized I had 45-year-old men, 50-year-old men coming to me, and 20-year-olds, and they treated me like I was their parent. And I said to them, I'm not your dad. I'm not going to punish you. It's not my issue. It's your issue. Like, you want to lose the weight or you want to gain the muscle. So it's up to you to then actually take control of your food and your intake, so you get the results that you want. And so I found that, like, if I gave out meal plans, I became people's dads. And I don't want to be your dad. I just want to teach you about it so you can go and get the results. Anyway, that was sidetracked. So work on your protein. Now, the first step I do in my field guide, always get your breakfast sorted. Okay, have breakfast. Okay, I'm not big into intermittent fasting. I've tried it. I've looked at studies on it. I don't think there's that much benefits from it. All I think is get your protein in the morning, because that's going to make you feel satiated. Okay, so I always say have some red meat for the morning. And I say have red meat because obviously it's high protein. So obviously a lot of it will be higher in fat, but it's also got a lot of the micronutrients, okay, which are going to help fuel your brain, especially things like tyrosine, okay, helps fuel your brain. B12, really big one. For all of your cells need B12, and a lot of people are deficient in B12, not just because they're not eating enough red meat, but mainly because their gut issues aren't allowing them to actually absorb and break down that B12 and put it into their body. And B12 will make you feel good, it makes you feel energized. So protein in the morning. I find that, especially when you start doing that and having red meat and some yogurt and maybe a little bit of rice, depending on what you want, in the morning, berries, what happens is, like, people are more satiated through the day. They're more able to stick to what they need to eat the rest of the day. Rather than if they have cereal, something like that, which is not as satiating, not as good in terms of its micronutrients, I find they get hungrier. They don't stick to the rest of their days eating anywhere near as well. Okay, so that's why I always like to start with the breakfast. Get that breakfast right first. If you change your breakfast, you generally change your life. Okay, so start with your breakfast. Try and get some sort of meat in, berries, yogurt, and have a really big protein sort of breakfast, protein and fat. Okay, and then throughout the day, start adding in more carbs. So if you're already really lean and you're looking to add more muscle, okay, have more carbs in the morning with that protein. Okay, if you're trying to lose fat, try and have your carbs later in the day. Okay, so like your rices, your potatoes, and your berries, all of that, try and have them later in the afternoon. And then that way we're going to be reducing calories. We're getting the important stuff in that we need, and then we're reducing calories and giving the carbs later on. Now, there's nothing wrong with carbs. It's just they're not as essential. Okay, so because they're not as essential, we can actually push them back later in the day, and we can have more carbs towards the afternoon and night, and that can actually help you go to sleep. Okay, because it's like when you have all those carbs, it sort of gives you a bit of a crash, makes you feel a bit like, oh yeah, dozy and like just tired. So like that can be really helpful to do in the afternoon. I'm going to go more deeper into this sort of stuff in later videos, but today I just want to make sure you start tracking your calories. Give yourself 2 weeks. Understand how much you're eating. Then make sure you're hitting your protein, okay? Aim for anywhere between 1.6 to 2.2 grams, okay, of protein, okay? And you'll learn by, actually tracking what you're currently eating and then changing it. Then start the plan. So first thing is get your breakfast in. Get your breakfast in. Once you've got your breakfast in, that's part of the plan. That's going to make everything easier. And you can start looking at what are other protein meals that I can take with me to work or to school. What are the best snacks? And I'm going to do more videos going through planning out your whole day for losing fat and gaining muscle. So the big gaining muscle part of this, if you're trying to lose fat and you're a beginner and gain muscle, totally possible. If you're sort of intermediate, been training for about a year, also possible. Okay, if you're really advanced, not going to happen, because what happens when you go into a deficit, right? So when you're losing fat, you're going to go into a deficit. That's also going to put stress onto the body, okay? It's going to put stress onto the system. Now, gaining muscle is all about mechanical tension, okay? So mechanical tension is how much tension you are putting onto the individual muscle fibers, okay? And to be able to cause growth and muscle gain, we need to be able to activate all of our muscle fibers, the most muscle fibers you possibly can. When your body is stressed, you cannot activate all of those muscle fibers, okay? We cannot recruit them all. And that is what we need to do to be able to gain muscle. Whereas you're a beginner, because you haven't tapped into many of your muscle fibers yet, we still have this potential to be able to grow muscle fibers and lose fat at the same time, okay? Because yes, your body is in stress, but it doesn't need absolutely everything it needs to be able to tap into new muscle fibers, okay? So trying to just explain that as simply as possible, because it is a little bit complex, but I hope that makes sense. So make sure you're looking out for our next videos. There's gonna be more on this nutrition topic. There's a lot to it. This is a quick video, a lot of stories, a lot of rambling. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, give us a like on this video, follow our social media, Rugby Development Coach, download our free app, and if you want programming, go to rugbydevelopmentcoach.com. We've got all different ones: Maximum Muscle, Women's Academy, Super Player Program, which is for speed and strength. We've got everything there. Juniors, if you've got a junior athlete, go to the Junior Rugby Academy. We've got body weight exercises ones, and they're awesome. All right.